Angella Sharpe with STL TV, and I have got a treat for you today. Today we're going to check out the Mummy exhibit here at the St. Louis Science Center. Now, because this exhibit actually has mummies, real mummies, probably won't be able to see me as much when we take our tour through, but I'll make sure to show you each of the different mummies and how they work. It's a very interesting experience where you get to see how different cultures represent mummies. There's even a mummy from 1994. That's recent. So I'm going to show you what it's all about. Let's go inside. This is going to be so exciting. I caught up with Neville Crenshaw here, the special exhibits manager here at the St. Louis Science Center, and we are in a very unique place. What is this mummy exhibit called?
Yeah, the Mummies exhibition. It's called Mummies of the World, the exhibition. We're going to be talking about mummies and mummification across several different cultures, across several different time periods, from the familiar ancient Egypt to some of those that are less familiar, even as late as 1994.
I mean, this is pretty exciting. So can you kind of, let's say, make this the elementary school version for me here? So when somebody first walks into this exhibit, what is it like?
You're going to be experiencing a quick introduction on mummification and mummies themselves. We need to talk about it as a scientific process first, to understand its form of preservation. But we also want to talk about the fact that these are real people on display inside this exhibition who had lives, who had families and friends, and whose experience mattered. And that's what's important about this exhibition, is you're going to learn about cultures that you can no longer go see, but we can experience through the mummies left behind.
Wow, okay, so I mean, you kind of really span the globe, and I guess I just didn't realize how many different cultures use mummies in a way.
Yeah, a lot of them did it purposefully, like the Inca, Egyptians, that kind of thing. Some of them did it accidentally because of the dry or cold environments, or even just a steady wind stream can create a mummy in a perfectly set crypt.
So I've seen a lot of families coming in here, smaller kids, mom and dad, that kind of thing. What kind of things are you hearing from the people that have walked through?
I think people are seeing that mummification is a lot bigger than they thought it was. It was a lot more common than just the ancient Egyptians. It's a lot more varied than they thought it was. There are a lot of different ways that you can go about mummification, whether it be artificially or naturally. And I think people are coming away with a newfound respect for several different cultures that they may not have been familiar with.
Now, we happen to be talking to you in the Burns collection, which when I first saw it, I was like, look, it's kind of scary. But now that I've been looking at it more, it's actually really interesting. So talk me through this one a little bit.
Yeah, this one's unique. This was done by a Scottish anatomist who was trying to find a way to make it easier for medical students to study anatomy. We don't have any idea how he went about this process. It's kind of unique in that these collections are the only places you can see mummies that are preserved this way.
That's cool in itself, that you don't even know really how he did it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they could tell some of the chemicals that he used, but the timing and other different processes, we have no idea. So when you see it, it's a unique form of mummification. And what's interesting is that they had used it for anatomical study, because you don't want doctors just going in and operating on somebody based on what they know in textbooks. And cadavers were harder to find back then to study on. So this was a way of preserving them for those medical students.
I mean, this is a really cool exhibit that is here at the St. Louis Science Center. How long is this going to be up and running?
We're happy to have this till September 6th, which is a great long run. We'll have it throughout the summer, which is going to be great. And we hope everybody has a chance to come out and see it at some point.
Is there anything that you think people should know and understand prior to their visit here?
I would just say that, some of the material inside is a little bit difficult for children, and I would say that's a conversation for you and your family to have before coming in, because we want to make sure that everybody who comes in here has a good experience, and we don't want anything to catch anybody off guard. We are talking about real mummies here, and these are real people who are in various states of display, and we want to make sure that you understand that before coming in.
Well, I appreciate that so much, and thank you for letting me take a look around here. Neville, thank you again. Right when you walk in, the very first thing, and it's something that I had a question about, because finding out that these were all real people, I was curious if they had the same rights and rules that we do now about, are you allowed to kind of show off my body? But they have their ethics statement right here directly on the wall. And I was actually informed that everybody has given their rights in various ways, either like through family or through whoever currently owns that thing. So that is good to know, and I like how it's the first thing you see when you walk in. So you ready? Let's go explore.
All these hieroglyphics here are either passages about the person or passages from the Book of the Dead that are spells. One of the ways that we know that it was a woman of high status is because, and you might notice the beard, that was common for people to be depicted, even women with a beard.
I thought the beard meant it, so that doesn't mean it's a guy.
No, in fact, several female pharaohs, I believe Hatshepsut was depicted with a beard as well. One of the cool things about this, though, is we know as a woman of high status because in ancient Egypt, real wood that could be used for sarcophagus was incredibly expensive because they didn't have any. They had to buy it from Lebanon. So that was one of the ways you showed your wealth, was by having this nice wooden coffin. These folks were found in a crypt in Summersdorf Castle in Germany. These would have been from about the time of the 30 Years' War. The Baron, as you can see, still has these well-preserved boots that were made specifically for his burial. These are here on display with permission of the family, as they'd like to learn more about their history, so the study of them helps them understand their place in history.
Very interesting, and it's amazing that those boots have lasted the test of time like this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we've got two mummy bundles here, and these are kind of like your all-in-one tomb. It's going to have offerings for the deceased to give them a good afterlife, and very intricately braided rope bundles to contain them.
So yeah, what is this right here in the middle?
So that is a mummy right there inside of that bundle right there. This particular priest is the priest of Nes Min. Nes just means of in a way, so he was the priest of Min. Stolus priest of the temple, and that would have been one of the highest honors that you could have in society, in Egyptian society. And he has a sarcophagus befitting that status. You can see the detail work is incredible. As I said earlier, the wood would have had to come from Lebanon, as Egypt did not have a lot of big trees to be able to create something like this.
And this is kind of really shows you what it looks like when you take off the top portion and the person's inside, the mummy's inside.
Yep. And what's interesting is this is only a few hundred years later, but you can see it looks a lot different. It's very dark, and that's a tar-like treatment on the outside of both the mummy and the sarcophagus. And that just shows you how, even though mummification itself was very similar, a lot of the practices changed over time.
Right. Is that a fish? Sorry, now I'm really interested. That's a fish.
This is kind of demonstrating that mummification is a process that exists naturally, whether or not we use it. European tourists would come and look for a shrunken head to take back with them. So the practice eventually had to be banned. Originally, it was a little bit less gruesome than just a tourist item. It was used as a method of kind of appeasing the soul of someone whom you killed in combat. And then the sloth there is just, you couldn't just go ahead and shrink a human head. You had to practice first to make sure you do it right. And so a sloth was a pretty good way of practicing that. So this is MUMAB. It stands for Mummy at Maryland University, Baltimore. This was an experimental process done in the 90s. A person had donated their body to science, and a team went about trying to reconstruct the method of mummification the Egyptians did. We have a fairly good idea of how they did things, but they took a lot of things for granted, process steps that we would not know today that they took as something that everyone would understand. So they went about trying to find out the exact details. It took 600 pounds of natron salt. They had to figure out what tools to use where and how many days to rest everything. But what we ended up with was the first modern Egyptian mummy, and to all accounts and purposes, it looks as though they did the job correctly.
You said 90s.
Yep, that 94.
In 90, so this is very, very recent.
Yep, absolutely. It's actually the most recent mummy we have on display in the exhibition. This is from the Chinchorro civilization, if I remember correctly. And it's a child mummy that was preserved in the high, dry climate of South America.
And what are these little sticks?
So weaving would have been very important to this culture, and so these are for the weaving practices, and those two rods right there also have some of the cloth on it that are stored that way.
Oh.
You can see that they're still brightly colored today. So this is Zwilu woman. She is a peat bog mummy, which is a very rare form of mummy due to the fact that peat bogs are only available in a couple countries throughout the world. So she was found buried in a bog, and that unique high acid environment caused the type of mummification that you're seeing here. So this is from a little town called Vats, Hungary. They were doing a renovation of a church and knocked down a wall and found a crypt with 250 bodies in there that had been mummified naturally because of the conditions in that crypt. These are the Orlovitz family. It's Michael, Johannes, and Veronica. They all passed about the same time period. And poor Veronica had a rough life. You know, she was not only sick for most of her life with tuberculosis, but she passed it on to her family members, including Michael, who may have been complicated by it. We do know that he had an injury to his leg, but it may be that his immune system was weakened. We know that also it looks like Johannes suffered from tuberculosis, which likely led to his early passing as well.
Oh, well, that's sad. I was very fortunate to be able to walk through with Neville, but you actually can, rent an audio kind of tour through there. Plus, there's always a Science Center employees inside that can answer any question for you. And they have a lot of written word about each of the mummies. A very amazing experience. I definitely suggest you come check it out. It'll be open through September. So go to the St. Louis Science Center's website to find out how you can get tickets. That's going to do it for me, Angella Sharpe. But make sure you keep it right here on STL TV and Experience St. Louis.